I'm Laura Ray, and today we're going to talk about concealers I hate. I'm sure you're like me and you've wasted tons of money on concealers that get in fine lines, just make your under eyes look older. So if you've been in that predicament, I have some to share with you I think are absolutely horrible. Some of them get great reviews and just didn't work for me. So if they work for you, that's wonderful because I want the products to work for you. That's why I'm here. But I want to show them in my under eyes so you can see what they look like. But I also have some that are super affordable that I think are beautiful, work great in the under eyes. Let's see, I have one that's sort of towards the mid-price, the rare beauty that I want to share with you that's worked great for me recently. But let's start with some that are really horrible. Before we start, I want to talk about what I do have on my face. I do have on some eyeshadow and mascara because I'm going to work in a few minutes, but I also have put some under eye cream. I know a lot of makeup artists say, don't put under eye cream, use setting spray, but I'm almost 60. And I need my under eye cream. So under regular circumstances, I would put my under eye cream on after I wake up, let it sit for maybe 30 minutes to an hour, and then I usually apply my makeup. One I love is the Vichy. This is a gel, and it really dries down very quickly, but keeps my under eyes very moisturized. I love the feel of it. It's very lightweight. I usually use something lightweight during the day and a little bit heavier at night. Now, another one I've been trying that I put on this morning, they sent me this. It's City Beauty Under Eye Recovery. I thought this was a beautiful formula. I'll put it here. It's a little more of a cream than the one I just showed you from Vichy, but it has some sort of a iridescence to it that gives a nice look in the under eye. And I have that on right now. That's what I have in the under eyes. Now, another one that I love, I usually wear during the day, is the Peeper Keeper. This is really affordable, and this has caffeine in it. So for my fine lines around the eyes, I find that this is nice for sort of plumping those up. I'll put just a little bit on my skin so you can see. And I will just tap in around the eyes. And they always say use the ring finger, but if you use a light touch, that's really what they're trying to get across, and not tug in the under eye. So we'll put a little bit of that on, but I love this, and like I said, it's super affordable. The brush I'll be applying these with is from Nikki LaRose. This is the N16. This has to be my all-time favorite concealer brush. Now, the reason is I get such a thin application. All of her brushes, I've been trying out this set. BK Beauty did send it to me. They don't pick up so much product. So everything goes on very thin. So I do have the Angie, which I bought one also. They sent me one, but I bought one. This is so much more dense and compact. For me, this is actually working so much better. So I've been using this for everything. So I'm going to clean it between applications so that we get a really good look. Now, this is going to be so controversial, the first one, because I know I've heard many bigger YouTubers talk about this. This did not work for me at all. It's from Lancome. It's their Tint Idol Ultra Wear. I have to say the reasons I don't like it is it dries down very quickly. I felt my under eyes looked very dry. And I've talked about this before, and other people have written, oh, that's my favorite. And again, what works for one person is not going to work for another. I wouldn't say I have dry under eyes. I would say more normal. They're not dry. They're not oily. They're somewhere in the middle. But this just dried down really fast. And I didn't like the scent either. It reminds me of the Wet n Wild, sort of that paint smell to it, and I'm a little finicky about scents. So I'm going to go ahead in and show you how this looks, and then we'll talk about what I look for in a concealer, let me know in the comments what you look for. I look for something that's thin, that won't collect in the fine lines, won't make my under eyes look older. I'm looking for a little bit of brightness to them, maybe a little more of a lifted look because of the way I will angle it when I apply eyeshadow. And I'm just looking for the under eyes to look improved. Now let's take a look. See, I can just see that this area here is much more accentuated with the product than it was before. It looks smoother, and now I can see it sort of collecting in here, and that's exactly what I don't want. If I put a moisturizer and put no product there, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty smooth. So this is actually sort of drying out the under eye. I'm going to relax my face so you can see how the side with nothing on it looks compared with this. See, I see much more in here that I didn't see before. So, and I don't have, this doesn't, it's not a brightener. It's not supposed to be as an all-over concealer. So, see, I have a little spot there. I don't know what that was, and then I broke my skin there. So I'm going to put a little bit on here just to see how that would cover a spot. And we'll just go over it. Now see, that worked really well for that. Let's try the capillaries here because this is a spot I'm always covering. This would work more for things like this. I didn't like it for the under eye, which is one of the reasons I'm buying it. So I'm just going to sort of go in here and see how this covers up some of that. Well, it did pretty good. I still see some through the skin where others I've used have covered it. And I would think as it wore off during the day, I would see that coming out. But it did cover this really nicely. So I would say if you're buying it for spots on your face and that kind of thing, this might work great. But for the under eyes, it's just a little too, I'm seeing a lot more that I didn't see before I put it on. So this is a no for me. Now, what I'm cleaning my under eyes with in between is the Garnier, the micellar water. It's waterproof. I love this stuff. A lot of these micellar waters I don't like, but this one seems to work really well. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. And the next ones I put on, you can see it really is taking it off well. We'll do a little comparison. We'll put one that I don't like next to another one I don't like. So this one from the drugstore was a stinker. And when I mean a stinker, part of it is the scent. It's the Physicians Formula Butter Glow Concealer. Now, I don't get sent much makeup, but it just so happens they did send me this. And I just can't take the scent of the Butter Glow. I know some people love it. That whole line, I almost get an allergic reaction, like I get stopped up. I just can't take the scent. So I know even taking this out is going to bother me, but I'm going to do it anyway for the sake of the video and for all of you. So right away I can smell it. Now I went ahead and took this shade. By the way, I wanted to mention the shades. This one from Lancome was Buff. It's a neutral. And this one, see, I can already smell the whole room smells like a coconut. This is Fair to Light. So this would be not something I would normally buy. This shade I would buy up from this, but we'll go ahead and put it on. It is thin. I like that about it. But the main thing for me, the scent is a deal breaker. Now this sponge, this just doesn't work well at all for applying it. I tried it, as you can see before, and it's just too clunky. It doesn't give a smooth look for a mature eye. This might work for someone that's really young that has no fine lines or wrinkles, but I can already see it's drying down, so I better get busy and stop talking. So let's take a look. It's definitely a little brighter, but it still works. If I blended my foundation up, if I had some on, then we could make it work. It's fairly thin. I like that. But again, the main deal breaker for me would be the scent. I just couldn't deal with that every day, especially around my eyes and nose. It's just too much. So that's the main deal breaker. Now, another one that's affordable that was just horrible for me, it just really made my under eyes look bad, was the e.l.f. Their color camo corrector. I wanted this to work so badly. I thought, oh, that'll be perfect. They've come out with a more affordable line of these correctors. So I'm going to put this on. I know it's not a concealer, it's a corrector, but a lot of people that wear concealers wear correctors too. So I thought I would include them. Now, right away, I feel a coolness, almost like the product's burning, and it's heavily scented, heavy in a paint kind of scent. So that's a deal breaker for me. I just can't use products like that. But I'm going to go ahead and put it on. When I put this on before, what I saw was it really collected in my fine line. So I'm going to stretch the skin a little bit. I know you're not supposed to pull in the under eyes just to get it smooth. Yeah, I don't know how much correcting that did, but I can see it collecting, maybe not correcting, in the fine lines under the eyes. And I don't know, I just don't feel like it did a whole lot of correcting or did anything for me. This side actually with the physician's formula I think looks a lot better than this does. I did not do well with the e.l.f. Camo Concealer. It didn't work for me. It was too heavy, a lot like the Tarte. I didn't do well with the Tarte concealer either. I tried the Tarte concealer when it first came out, and it was just way too thick. I could not get it thin enough to look good in my under eye. It just made my under eye area look so dried up and so heavy and so many lines. So that did not work well. I just don't think this does much for me. And again, the scent is a deal breaker. I don't smell it much now. Even the butter one, I don't smell as much that I've got it on. But I'm just thinking over time, all that scent is just going to irritate my skin. Another one that didn't work is the e.l.f. Putty Color Corrector. This, again, looked really heavy in the under eyes. Now, one that did work is the Catrice, the under eye brightener. So I thought it would be fun to put the e.l.f. on one side, the Catrice on the other, so you could see. I'm going to go ahead in again with the micellar water. Hopefully my under eyes can handle all this. So many of you said, oh my gosh, Laura, 30 lipsticks on your lips. They must have been killing you. Actually, some of those products were so moisturizing, it wasn't that bad. I was worried about it too. I thought, oh my gosh, now I got to go to school with these lips. But it worked out, thankfully. All right, so I think we got everything off. I just put such a thin amount anyway. And let's go ahead in. By the way, I love these cotton squares. I'll try to link them for you. They're the Shiseido. They're really soft, and I've used them for a long time. They cost a little bit more than regular cotton rounds, but not that much, and it's worth it because they're really nice. All right, I think we're good to go. So let's put the one I didn't like, the e.l.f. Color Corrector. Now, what I didn't like about this is it was just too thick. I love these kind of brighteners. The Smashbox, the Becca, did not work for me either. It was too much. And I'm going to put a little bit more on so it'll show up on camera and you can see how bright it is. So it is a nice shade, pretty bright. And, you know, sometimes these things will look good immediately, but then as they wear through the day, This would take me weeks to wear these through the day and come back and show you. But I can tell you after wearing them that some of them, as the day went on, broke down, got in the fine lines even more so. So if I'm saying it didn't work, part of it was what happened to me during the day. All right, so I do see some collecting in here in the under eyes, but not too bad. Let's try the Catrice. This is probably part of the reason I didn't like it as much, because I love this one. Now this actually, when I put them side by side, this one looks, the e.l.f., a little more emollient than the Catrice, but this has been my go-to. I like to sort of just pat it in with the fingers first to spread it, and then I'll get everything off my brush. These brushes clean quick too. I don't know, there's magic in them that they just wipe off the product so easily. Now, what I like about the one from Catrice is as it wears during the day, it doesn't collect in my fine lines, and it just looks really nice. I love how bright it is compared with the e.l.f. Let me put a little more e.l.f. Maybe I wasn't being fair, and I'll put a little more of this on. Maybe it's not as bright because I didn't apply as much. Makeup is not an exact science. It's science. So let's try that. I'll even pat it in like I did the other side. So I'm trying to get them as even as I can, but sometimes it's a little challenging. So what I'm seeing again is the e.l.f. is getting into the little skin. This isn't even a line, it's skin that's hanging. So as we age, our skin gets looser, and it gets looser in the under eye, and sometimes it'll hang over a little bit and create a crease. So that's sort of what is here, and a lot of that is from smiling, lifting the cheeks, and then creating that hollow and those lines. And as the day goes on, I'm smiling at the kids at school and stuff. This is getting more and more pronounced. And you can see now what I'm talking about. It's starting to settle into those lines. Now, I don't see so much settling here. It looks a lot smoother to me. And this is the Catrice that I've been using all the time. So I believe now, as I'm thinking back to what I wrote down and my observations, that this just continued to get into these little fine creases. And as the day went on, it just didn't look very good. And they're about the same price. The Catrice is around $6. So why not go with one that works so much better? This one I just hate. Okay, so I got those off. We're going to talk now. This one's going to be so controversial because I had such high hopes for this one. So many people said, oh, this is amazing. And it must have worked great for them. It just didn't for me. And that's why it's almost full. And that's the Kosas. I had such high hopes for this because I heard it was thin, it was magical, it was all these things, and it just wasn't very much magic for me. So I bought the shade in this, let's see, 4.5 neutral. And online that seemed to be the one that was the best match for me. I go with more neutral shades than warm or cool. So that seems to work. You can see I have on a gold necklace today. I tend to be a little more warm, but the warm shades look very orangey on me. So I found the neutral works best. This has a doe foot applicator. Let's put it on this side, and then I'll put on another one that I'm not so crazy about that is more costly. I've thrown away some too that didn't work for me. I did a declutter over the summer and threw away a lot of products that didn't work. But I kept this around because this is such a popular concealer. And you can see I didn't buy a bright shade. I tried to get one that would match more with the foundation that I wear so it would look more natural. Sometimes I go with that kind of a concealer, more of a natural look, and I find it makes my under eyes look better. Sometimes the brighteners just accentuate lines. So I like to go back and forth and try different things. Now, what I remember with this is it went on beautifully because it has skincare ingredients in it, but it started catching in the fine lines around the eyes. So I'm starting to see that now. As it's sitting, the look is going to change a little bit. So while that's going on, we'll go back to that in a minute. Let's put on the Nars. I wanted to see how a Nars concealer would work. You know, we hear so many great things about most of their products, which are beautiful. This is light 2 to 3 Madeline and creamy concealer. It's heavy and not very emollient. So it almost like there's some product sticking up off my finger. It's sort of tacky. Okay, and maybe they want that so it'll stay on all day. So let's put some of that on. And I'll just tap it. Since it is tacky, I don't want streaks in the under eye, so we'll start with this and then Now, here's the thing. It's already dry. It dried that quick. What? That took me a half of a second and I feel like it's dry. So how am I supposed to spread it now? Let's try. I'll go in there with my brush. Okay, so you can see this is much more matte, which I'm not against matte, but I find if something's too matte, then it gets very dry as the day goes on. So my under eyes 8 hours from now are not going to be looking so great. So I would say one of the big problems with the Nars is that it dries down super fast before I even had a chance to barely work with it. Now this, the Kosas, now you're starting to see it starting to collect right in here, right in this pocket. This actually looks a lot smoother to me, this does. But again, it's very dry. I think most of you write me that you have dry under eyes, at least normal. I rarely get a comment where someone who's my age or above says, oh, my under eyes are so oily. I rarely see that. Maybe once in a great while. You might have, like I do, an oily T-zone still, but most people don't have oily under eyes. I didn't even have that when I was younger. My lids were oily, but not so much. I would say this was very normal, and the mobile lid was oily. So let's take a look. I definitely see a lot of collecting here from the Kosas. I don't think it's doing me any favors. We'll just say that. This looks better than Nars, but again, I feel like it's dry. And as the day goes on, if you have dry eyes in the under eyes, you're not going to be happy with it. Now let's try some I really like, and we'll start with Sephora. Sephora has some amazing products in their line. I think they're so underrated. I'm going to do a video on just Sephora because I have so many things. The eyeshadow I'm wearing is an eyeshadow stick from Sephora, and I think it's as good as any that I have that were more expensive. I got it it was so affordable. I got it on sale for, I think, $6. And look at this. I love this. It's such a beautiful eye shade. So I'll link that too in case you're interested. But this is their Bright Future Gel Serum Concealer. And I did buy a lighter shade. It's called Fondant. And it's made in the USA too. So I like to play around again with the shades, sometimes go a little brighter, sometimes darker, just to see how they play in the under eyes. And I'm going to just start blending this out. What I liked about this, the gel in it, it felt very much like skincare. Look at how nicely and easily it goes in the under eyes. Beautiful. And I just tap in. It's almost dry, but I can feel like it feels like skincare. And I've wiped off any under eye cream that I had on earlier by now. I like that it looks really smooth. It doesn't seem to accentuate anything here. I'm going to buy a darker shade in this because I really like this. I love the way it brightened my under eyes. I think it would look beautiful with my foundation on. I actually know it would look beautiful because I've used it. And this played well with my eye cream. It just really worked out nicely. So that's a favorite. Now, I told you earlier that I tried this one from Rare Beauty recently. I know this is a few more dollars than the Sephora, but it's beautiful. And I bought the shade Light. And this has like a little wand on it that's metal. So it doesn't have an actual sponge. And it goes on very serum-like. Look at the little dot of liquid there. You can see it's very liquidy, thinner even than the Sephora that I just used. So I think this is great for a mature eye because look at how that spreads and it thins out quickly. So I love that. Thinner the better. And it just sinks into the skin beautifully. It's not laying on my skin like a lot of the ones that I did not like. Look at the brightness it's giving me here. I wouldn't need to put any eye crayon or anything to brighten that area because the concealer's doing it for me. And usually I like to take a little eye crayon and go in the inner part. So here's the Sephora. I don't see it collecting anywhere or really accentuating anything. And here you can see this looks more emollient. You see a lot more of like an iridescence coming off of it. But here's the Rare Beauty. I love both of these. I think they look beautiful on the skin. This color, really, I think actually these shades work. If I have a foundation very close to my skin, I think it would just brighten the under eye. So play around with the shades and see if you can find one that just really brightens you up. Now, another one from the drugstore, I bought 2 shades of that I really have been enjoying is the L'Oreal True Match. This is their eye cream in a concealer. Hard to beat, right? And I bought warm 3 to 4. I went ahead and tried that, and this was neutral 3-4. So why don't we try both of these? I'll put one on one eye and one on the other, and then that will help you to see how shades can change up the whole concept too. I'm going to go ahead and remove these, but these are definitely favorites. I love the way they look. They're actually doing something for me, I feel, as opposed to the others, which were just creating more of a mess. Many days I just go under the eyes with my foundation. I don't even use concealer. The new foundation that I've been using, the Tarte Found Sealer and the MAC one that I've talked about, those two, when I wear those, I don't even need concealer. I just bring them up very thinly in the under eye, and that seems to do what I'm looking for, which is cover any discoloration and sort of give a little more brightness to the under eye. But I think we got everything off. So let's go in with the True Match. I'm going to do the warm 3-4 on this eye. And I've had comments from some of you saying how much you're enjoying this concealer, that you really like it. And I'm just going to tap into it on the brush. That's another way you can apply it without putting it directly on the skin. And what I love about this one is it really does feel thin, sort of like the Rare Beauty did, like a skincare product, more so than a concealer. Wow, look at how nice that looks. I think that looks beautiful. And I'll just, some of these red spots, let's cover them and see how that works there. Nice. This is covering that really beautifully and looks like a nice thin foundation. I could just do my whole face with this. And that's why I love this brush too. It's like a multitasker. I've used it for eyeshadow. I use it for the concealer. Beautiful. Look at that. If that was in a high-end packaging and all that, that could sell for big dollars. That looks beautiful. So that was the Warm 3-4 Light. Now let's try Neutral 3-4 Light on the other eye. I'm just going to wipe this off. I wanted to see which one, because if I look at the packaging, the warm one looks a little lighter than the neutral light. This has a little more of a tan look to it. This actually looks more neutral, but they call it warm. So that's why I ended up buying both of them, because it looked a little confusing when you looked at the colors comparing the names. So there is the neutral 3-4 light. And we'll go right in the under eye. See how much warmer that looks than the other one? And when I first put it on, I was like, whoa, that's not going to work. But let's see how it looks when it settles down a little bit. So I would say in this line, the shade names don't necessarily match the look. This is much darker if you look at the two sides. So for me, I actually, especially this time of year when I'm not getting that much sun, I really ended up liking the Warm 3-4 better, 3-4 Light. I think the shade matches better. This is a little too tan. It's a little tanner than my skin, but it still works. Let me know in the comments what you think. Which shade do you like better? This is the neutral. And that's the warm. To me, this looks more natural, like a better match. A true match? All right. So look at how nice this looks. So affordable. I like this so much better than the Lancome. So I say save your money. There are some amazing concealers at the drugstore. I have two more I want to show you, and one is a brightener. It's the Maybelline. The eraser. We've all seen this so many times, but this is the brightener shade, and I bought it for years, and it's like a liquid version of the Becca concealer, the brightener, and sort of a liquid version of the Catrice that I showed you. I was looking for where I put it. Here it is. It's sort of a liquid version of this. So I want to put this on just so you can see it. I also want to put on another great one for you, the number 7 Lift and Illuminate. I don't hear very many people talk about this, and I think it's a great concealer. So we're going to end the video with these two, sort of showing you how they look on the skin and how they can work for mature under eyes. You got to make it through one last, well, really one more, because I got to go to school. And I can't go with one bright eye and one with a regular concealer. So, all right, I think we got that off. And let's start with the Maybelline. I'm going to go on this eye. And again, you can actually, if you haven't done this before, pull this top off. And if you're not into the sponge, you can twist up the product this way. I think that works great. That's what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to put a little bit on my brush and go in. Now look at how bright that is. If you're looking for some brightness, this is your jam. Oh yeah, that's definitely bright. To me, that's even brighter than the Catrice. And again, you want a little amount, and you got to really shear it out. Otherwise, it could get into fine lines and look heavy. We'll let that dry down a little bit. But again, it does have skincare in it, which makes it spread pretty easily. I actually used to not like this product. I don't know if they changed it a few years ago. I went back to it maybe 3 or 4 years ago and loved it. But before that, when they first came out with it, I didn't like it at all. But look at how bright. So if you're looking for a bright under eye, this looks so nice. It doesn't seem to be collecting in here. I could probably blend it out a little bit more. There we go. We'll look at it in just a moment. We'll go back to it. Let's let it dry down a little bit. And I'll go in on this side with the number 7. This is made for a mature eye. It's a serum concealer. It's in the shade light medium. And again, this shade is 160. It just is called a brightener. It's not a regular shade. It's for everyone to wear to brighten the under eyes. This one is light medium, a nice shade for me. Look at how nice that matches with my own skin tone. I love when they put skincare ingredients in these concealers. It keeps them from being dry in the under eye and creating a problem. And sometimes I will stretch out the skin a little like this because that smooths that area. And then I can get in there with the brush and do a better job. And pat. Pushing in the concealer, I think, makes a difference too. One thing I can tell you about this brush, I hope BK Beauty sells them separate. Right now they're in a kit, but I hope they sell them separately like what happened with Angie's brushes. They started doing that because this brush is just incredible. All of them are, but if you're on a budget, I would say that this brush would be something you would want if she sells them separately. But look at how nice this looks. Very smooth, not collecting in here, not heavy there. And this one, definitely, look at how bright. If you're looking for some brightness, these could be high-end if you put them in fancy packaging. They really could. So these are my favorites and the ones I hate. I won't repurchase. I'm done with them. But I'll continue to try concealers so I can share them with you. The good news is I have more that I love than ones I hate. So that's good for me and my budget. But I've talked so much about the Winky Lux. I didn't bring Winky Lux here today because I've talked about that so much. That's another one that I think is amazing. But let me know if you enjoyed this video. I'll do more like this where I show you close up how these products are working and explain why they didn't work for me. And again, most of the ones that I hated just looked really bad by the end of the day, collecting in fine lines and wrinkles, so that's a deal breaker for me. Let me know in the comments your favorite concealer if you found one, or maybe you haven't found one yet because it's pretty rough out there trying to find a good one. But I appreciate you all so much, and I'll look forward to your comments. All of the products I used today and the shades are in the description of the video. I hope you have a blessed week, and I'll see you soon.